This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
That power brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And ready to drink cocktails. Jack Daniels, High Noon, Crown Royal, and Pickle Bar led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. It's all at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. There you go. So, yeah. The game on Saturday night, there'll be some familiar themes. And, of course, it's going to be, in general, about can James Franklin win one? Can Drew Aller quarterback one? I mean, all these things will be discussed ad nauseum. It's not my... I'm around these people all the time, and I've done every game. And I know what I consider to be a big win, as opposed to maybe somebody else. But you can't win 34 now up to 37 games and 3 in the third seasons and not have some big wins in there, both as a head coach and a quarterback. I mean, I understand that most national perceptions are pretty much narratives, and they're pretty baked in. I guess the only way you can do it is you go out and you win a game like this, and maybe they talk about something different. I don't know. Now, the college game tonight, by the way, is Army East Carolina. The pro game tonight is Arizona and... Who's Arizona playing tonight?
Seahawks.
Seattle. Oh, your team.
That's why I knew.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Guess who's off this evening?
You.
Yes.
I guess Kirk Herbstreit's going to do the game tonight. Then I guess he has to get some sort of red-eye charter that take he and Peter, the dog, to State College for college game day.
Maybe you can catch a ride with Phil.
Phil's not going to be at that game. Phil Knight? No, Phil's not going to be at that game. No. There'll be no Phil Knight in Glendale.
Maybe Phil wants to meet Peter, though.
Well, I mean, Phil will be here on Friday.
That's right, you did say that.
Yeah, Phil will be here on Friday. I believe he's having dinner with the Paternos on Friday, I believe. So, it's interesting. It's they may be different names, but I think Penn State fans are uneasy because of who they beat. Oregon fans are uneasy because of who they beat. It's always interesting. I think there's, you know what's crazy about this? I mean, this has come up on the show many times, right? I sense that fans are nervous about games like this because they care, right? They care, right?
I would say living around here, I think most people think they're going to get boat race, Steve.
That Penn State's going to.
Yeah, because I think people are reading way too much into those first three games, thinking that I think they expected Penn State to win all of those 59-0, and when they didn't, they're not as good as people say they are.
Right. Oh no, they probably do think that way. That's fine. But then they'll ask me about how pumped up and excited are you? I say I'm fine. I think I drive people nuts because I think they want me to say it like I remember the Auburn game. Matt was the co-host at the time, Matt Catrillo. And he says, how do you spend the day? I said, well, I'm going to cut the lawn. He goes, what? I said, I'm going to cut the lawn. He goes, why? I said, because it needs to be cut. I said, I've got the time to do it, so I'm going to do it. I said, what do you expect me to do? Pace all day? Like, no. I say this with all due respect. It's not the first big game I've done. I know what I'm supposed to do and how we're supposed to go about it, and there's the unpredictability of it. Been there, done that. But because I had three people today, like, you can't be this calm before a game like this. I said, well, I'm not playing. I said, how do you want me to be? I mean, Todd, what am I expected to be? I have no idea.
I think part of the issue is, I think it's projection, obviously, from fans. They're nervous and excited. Why wouldn't you be?
Right.
And I kind of get I feel the same way in the sense that, getting excited about it now isn't going to make Saturday come any faster. Are you going to enjoy the heck out of yourself because it's a big game on Saturday? Yes.
Sure. Of course.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
I have a hard time explaining it to people, too, because I got way more excited about this stuff when I was 18 than I do now. But I've also done, 14 football games a year for 30 years?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I love the heck out of my job, but, it's hard to get that excited anymore. Like, I don't get excited about anything like that. You're not going to know I'm watching my favorite team tonight.
I mean, when the time comes, the key is, are you ready?
Yeah.
Now, look, and for James Franklin, that's what he'd say about his job. Drew Aller, that's what he would say about his job, right? You get to the game, are you ready? Well, I can tell you right now, as of today, I'm ready. There really isn't much left for me to do. I have to do the talk show with Katie Schumacher-Cawley and James tonight. Then I'll tape the pregame show with James tonight. Okay? Then when it comes to the game on Saturday, I'm now done. Tomorrow, I'll go to practice. I'll go to practice tonight, too, but I'll go to practice tomorrow. And then when it's done, I'm on in Portland at 5:20, and I'm on in Omaha, Nebraska at 6:15. After that, I'm just going to put my feet up. I mean, watch some football, just enjoy myself. This is not a laissez-faire. I mean, please, I'm not being laissez-faire about it. I'm just not. But at the same time, there's a way that you get ready for it. There's a process I use to get ready for it, and I follow that, all the steps. I don't skip steps, regardless of the opponent. I don't skip steps. And once I'm done with all the steps, I'm ready. And that's what I've done for 26 years. That's what I've done for basketball for decades.
I would say, I mean, the game is the easy part. The rest of the stuff is the hard work before the game is why the game is the easy part.
And and over the years, I've added a couple things that I think are important, and I've taken out some things that, like, after a while, like, I don't use that. That doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't help. And so, you've done that. I mean, I've done that because you're always looking for best process. But, I mean, I've watched them on tape twice. I saw the Northwestern game. I saw the Oregon State game. All right, so I got a pretty good feel about at least what they wanted to show. Fine. I've seen Penn State 3 games. I had all the stuff done on both teams by Sunday afternoon. There was a question of going to practice, and I did one interview in Portland on Tuesday. I did one interview for SiriusXM yesterday, and I did Roar Plus this morning. I've got the 2 tomorrow. That's it. But, I mean, getting in what I do, getting all revved up for it, doesn't do any good.
I think fans are also thinking Oregon and Ohio State are a referendum on this season. And
sure. I understand.
I think a 10-2 Penn State team's still getting into the playoff.
Well, what's interesting is I was asked that yesterday on SiriusXM. I think it was Bobby Carpenter who asked the question. And I said, Bobby, I said, under the old playoff system, Ohio State last year, losing that game was a be-all, end-all under the old system. Right? I said, because of the 12-team playoff, I said in the postgame show, and you guys have heard me say this many times, I'm just telling you what I told him, which is what you've all heard. I said, now they're in a 4-game playoff to make the playoff. Well, they won all 4 games, and they made the playoff, including the Big Ten championship game. And then they won a couple games, and they got to the national semifinals. Right? So when he asked about the stakes of this game, I said, Bobby, in the past, this would have been a be-all, end-all game. I said, this time, it's a big game, and boy, it'd be a big boost to win it because it would put you in a really solid position, but it's not be-all, end-all either.
I mean, I think that's part of that, people getting used to the playoff, because I think people still think this is a be-all, end-all game. That, right. Again, like I said, you go 10-2 and lose to Ohio State and Oregon, that means you have a win over Indiana, and it means you're going to the playoffs. So
Right. But again, let's go back to the narrative and the perception thing.
Yes.
Right? You want to go out and change the narrative. This is a team that did beat you last year in the Big Ten championship game. Can you now, 10 months later, turn that around and then change the perception that you can win a game like this? Okay. Yeah, that's a big part of it. It also does put you in a great spot because it keeps you undefeated. And again, undefeated, if you go the regular season undefeated, the way Oregon did last year, you get a bye. If you have 1 loss, you're in. 2 losses put you in the opinion pool. And the opinion pool gets rough because now they're going, well, you did this, you didn't do that, you did this, you beat them, you didn't, you know what I mean? And it starts going through the various scenarios as to whether you're in or not. I mean, what do you think? How do you think Indiana got in last year? Indiana got in last year because they had 1 loss. They were out of the opinion pool because of the 1 loss. They were out of the opinion pool.
That didn't stop people from having opinions, but...
Oh, no, you always have opinions, but you've seen now with what the committee does. The committee has been... It's one area I'll say that they've been consistent, is that they've taken, like, records, and they've used records to see who's in and who's out, and they haven't really thought too much about who you played. ...2016 was a great example. 14 playoff. Penn State's non-conference schedule is way, way better than Washington's. Not even close. Not even close. But Penn State had 2 losses. They may have won 9 in a row, including the Big Ten title game, but Washington only had the 1 loss to USC, and they were in. Okay, that's it. Done. I mean, that's just an example, but they've been consistent on that over the years. You have no losses, you are getting a first-round bye. You have 1 loss, you are in. They're not even thinking about you. They're only thinking about where to seed you. You have 2 losses, now they have to have a discussion. So that's kind of a simple way of putting all this, but that's sports is exponentially more simple than we make it out to be.
You just killed about 6 hours over 6 weeks of ESPN programming about the college football poll.
You got that right. Right? But tell me I'm wrong, though. Am I wrong?
No, but that's not embracing debate, Steve.
I understand that, right? I mean, Todd, I'm probably simplifying it, but to me, a lot of this stuff is simple.
Yes.
Right? When I'm talking about with Dave Ritchie, I'm talking about matchups. Well, matchups are simple. Is A better than B? And can we exploit it? Right? Uh-oh, I'm B. Right? I'm the coach of B. Can I mask it? Okay. How can we help out here and mask it? We all, because football, the nature of football, despite what the NFL does with Thursday Night Football, essentially it's 6 days of talk and a game. There's more talk. There's more hours of talk than there is the game. There's 6 hours of talk and then a game. Right? At least in basketball, you play a game, then a couple days you talk about it, then there's another game. A couple days you talk about it, there's another game. Right? And, but football, it's once a week. So you spend the entire week, yada, 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 yada. Now, the goal is to get great guests, which we have, having Jerry Allen on, Jack Ham, Todd Blackledge. We've had some great guests on this week. We're going to have Mike DeCourcy on in a few minutes. Okay? We try to make the yada, yada, yada talk more interesting by having these people on. Right? But the reality is, you go six days, and then you play one. All right, now another 6 days, you play one. Or in this case, you've gone 2 weeks, and then you play one.
Yeah, this one has been building for 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Yep. Right. Yeah, it's been building for months and months.
Yeah.
People expected Penn State to be 3-0 coming in. People expected Oregon to be 4-0 coming in. Nothing has changed perception other than the fact that each side is panicked about how good they are.
Yes.
Right? Oregon fans are panicked about how good they are. Penn State fans are panicked about how good they are.
And, to be honest, when I say that about the Penn State fans, I think they're looking at names on the uniform. I'm not sure how closely they realize how bad some of those other teams that Oregon are playing, because the name is better, I guess,
Yes, they beat Oklahoma State, the same group that fired its coach after going 4-11 in their last 15 games.
Yes. It wasn't a 1AA school in people's heads, though. Right.
Exactly. They already did that with Montana State.
Yes.
Okay. So I understand. I got it. Oregon State's playing the Mountain West like Nevada is. I got it. And they played the one conference game with Northwestern, and we know Northwestern, especially without Cam Porter, it makes it more of a struggle because I thought Porter was their best offensive player. And he's out for the year, by the way.
Steve, we got a call from Brian in Northern Virginia.
Hey, Brian, how are you today? Nice to hear from you.
I'm doing great, Steve. Great to talk to you as well. An excellent job as always. I love the show.
Thank you.
I was just calling to see if you could, offer some insight. Like I know that it's under the playoff system. It's not an end-all, be-all, but I just think for the national narrative and perception of Penn State, we really need to win this game. And like you said, beyond for just putting us in a good position going forward for the playoff and whatnot, but just really the national narrative that we can win the big game. Drew Aller can carry us, put the team in a good position to win, make the critical plays, things of that nature. And I'm just curious about your thoughts on changing this narrative and how big or how important is that to Coach Franklin? And then number two, I just noticed it seems like the first 3 weeks it was hard for the team to come out with any real consistency. It seems like when we play like an FIU or other teams, a lot of these other teams come out like it's their Super Bowl, and maybe it is, given the venue they're playing in and the opponent and everything. But I'm really hoping we see our team come out really, really motivated, really inspired, and just really taking it to Oregon right out of the gate. And I don't know if you think we're going to see that. I just don't want a slow start or a cold, kind of start feeling with the team that, I don't want to get behind or something like that. So I don't know what your thoughts are on those questions, sir.
Well, I'll start with the last one about getting behind, because last year Oregon got off to a great start in the game, and Penn State spent the entire night playing catch-up. And Penn State only had the ball one time in the game. Let's see, I'm trying to think. They only had 2 times in the game where they had a chance to tie the game. Their very first possession and their last possession where we were driving down the field down 8. So you don't want to be playing catch-up against this team all night. So getting off to a good start is going to be important. That's part of the steps to winning. Yes, it's narratives get baked in. I can think of so many big games that Penn State has won, but we know what the narrative is about Penn State. We know what the narrative is about what Drew is. And, yeah, by playing really well, you'll get some different articles and different perceptions by winning the game. I got that. And not only that, that's a big win that you would have that the committee would take into play, and that would be a big one in your favor to have in your column. They can't say you didn't beat anybody that was big time, because Oregon's big time.
I just think it's also good at getting some confidence to the players, and they won't be asked about this repeatedly in interviews going forward.
Oh, they'll be asked about it the week of the Ohio State game. Come on. You know that.
I'm being naive. Well, thank you so much, Steve. Have a great game Saturday.
Thank you, Brian. It's always a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, Mike DeCourcy, next half hour. Half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And a half hour brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department that backs it up every step of the way, whether it's quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult. All at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Always great to talk from Sporting News and also Fox Big Ten Network. Mike DeCourcy. Mike, welcome back. It's so great to hear you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. I do want to ask at least a basketball question, then I'll get right to football. Big Ten made the decision to go from 15 schools playing in the Big Ten tournament 1 year to now having all 18 put in. What was your thought on that move by the Big Ten to go back to everybody being in?
Yeah, I think it's the right move. It makes sense to have everyone participate in the league. If it's feasible. And I think it was hard to do the first year, just the logistics of it, to try to put everything in place, but now they've had some time to adjust. And I think that if you're going to have 18 members in the league, it's better to have 18 members in your tournament. And it doesn't really add a whole lot. It's just that first year you were already going bigger, so it makes sense it made sense and was understandable why they didn't go immediately to this format. But this is the right format. Every team in every league should be involved in all of the conference tournaments if you're going to have them.
Because the part I think people forget is that in order to do this, you need the building one extra night. The Pacers had a home game on that Tuesday night last year. So, I mean, I want to at least give, so people understand some perspective on that. I'm sure they were able to work it out with the NBA, with the Bulls having the United Center open for that extra night this year. So, okay. So now Penn State, Oregon. You wrote an article about the perception of where Penn State is with James Franklin, about the ability to win big games. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we do in the media now is we focus too often on defining the negative. You haven't done this. Yeah, but I did that. Well, it doesn't matter. You haven't done this. So, for instance, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I live in Pittsburgh. I followed the Steelers for my entire lifetime. Have not had a losing season since 2003. They've never had one under Mike Tomlin. But they also haven't won a playoff game in the last, I believe it's now the last 8 years. Since 2016, the last time they did it. Yeah. And so there's a lot of criticism around town about that. But it's not easy to build a team that is playoff winnable in a league where Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are the quarterbacks. It's hard to advance, and so it's the same kind of with James. They have done some amazing things. First of all, there was the fact that they restored Penn State to a place of prominence. I know Bill O'Brien did some really terrific work in those 2 seasons he worked to make sure that they didn't fall entirely off the face of the planet. And I give him lots of credit for that. And a big part of the credit for what ultimately James was able to accomplish. But they went from that peril that the program was in to the Big Ten championship in Bill's 2 years and then James's 3rd. So that was an amazing achievement, really. And they were really close to taking it a step beyond that. But the College Football Playoff Committee didn't agree with putting them in, and the playoff format at the time wasn't great and all that. And then the next year they had that phenomenal game against Ohio State where they just, they lost 39-38 in what was maybe the best college football game of this century. And so they've been close, but they've been really good. They just haven't been elite. And as I pointed out in the article, one of the things that was really fascinating to me was that he himself, Tyler Donahue, pointed this out, that Franklin himself had said we went from average to good and then good to great, and the next step, Tyler from 24/7 Sports pointed out that he said we need to go from being great to being elite, and it's now 7-8 years after that, and they still haven't made that step. And so I understand that it's the frustration or the impatience that you want to make that step, but it's a tough step to make. They've had some obstacles along the way, but now they're in the best position that they've been to take that step since they had Saquon in 2016 and 2017.
Right. No, in fact, that last step is the hardest step. Because you're trying to break into exclusive company at that point. The addition of Jim Knowles to the staff. There's only 3 games. I know that, and the first team defense has only given up a field goal so far. But just that move, and what do you think it means for the perception of Penn State that they were to bring in somebody like that?
Well, it meant that they were really serious about getting better. Because it's no secret he's making an extraordinary salary. So it's clear that they wanted to make it known that they're serious about taking that step to being elite. And then Knowles has to show that he can contribute to that, and it certainly his track record indicates that he will. But you still have to do the X's and O's on that particular Saturday, just as James has to make the right calls when it's time to go for 2 or it's not time to go for 2, and maybe not run the ball on 4th and 5 and all that. Those things all have to happen on Saturday, just as the players have to make the right plays and execute them properly and all that. But Knowles coming in was a serious statement about Penn State saying, okay, we've been bounced around a little bit in the coordinator game, and not for anything they've done badly. I mean, for things they've done well. I mean, Ricky Ronnie moving up to being a head coach and all of that sort of stuff. Moorhead way back in the day. Those things were somewhat out of their control. They were doing good things, and so they lost guys who could have contributed to them making that step from great to elite. But now they've taken a step by bringing in Knowles of saying, okay, we're going to take the upper hand in that part of this now.
You wrote one beforehand about Illinois, Indiana. A rivalry. Now, look, and Todd Blackledge did the game, and I talked to Todd about it yesterday. That didn't even remotely turn out the way I thought it could.
Oh, no.
All right? I mean, there aren't many times where you sit back and say, when's the last time you heard this sentence? In a Big Ten game, Indiana scored 56 unanswered points. Okay. When's the last time you heard that? But
probably once upon a time when Knight was coaching the 76 Hoosiers for the 32-0 season. Probably at some point that year they scored 56 unanswered points.
They might have. But it was a down the line rivalry game in a bigger conference like this. How important can those down the line bigger rivalry games be for the perception of the conference and the depth of it?
I think very important. I think the fact that Indiana and Illinois, even though they didn't have a great game, they played a game that looked like it was going to be significant, and from the ranking standpoint was. I mean, it was 9 versus 19 in the AP poll on Saturday night. And that's good for the league. It maybe would have been better for the league as a whole if they had played a really competitive game, but it was great for Indiana that they were able to be so dominant, and obviously that did 2 things. One, it made Penn State's schedule maybe a little bit more difficult than they thought it was on Saturday afternoon at brunch. They probably thought it was going to be a little bit easier schedule than it is now, but it also means that if the Lions take care of one of the 2 games, one of the 2 top 10 games over the next month and a half, this one Saturday and the one at Ohio State, they take care of one of those 2, and then they take care of Indiana at home, then they're looking at maybe having as good a resume as any non-unbeaten team. And I'm not saying they can't take care of both of those games. I'm just saying that's a pretty reasonable expectation for these guys.
I have to ask you about Clemson. They're 1-3, and Syracuse beat them. So now, look, when they lost to LSU, Mike, I'm like, oh, that's fine. I mean, you can lose a game like that. You still have the ACC schedule. Well, now they've lost to Georgia Tech and they've lost to Syracuse, and they had to rally in the fourth quarter in a non-conference game to beat Troy. Where does Dabo Swinney has his standards as to how he wants to coach in the modern game?
Yes.
Where does I admire he has standards, but where is he being hurt by not adapting?
Oh, I think it's obvious that he's being punished for not adapting. Mike Gundy just lost his job at Oklahoma State this week for not adapting wholly enough. And I think this can be, in many ways, the best thing for Clemson. And I don't mean that because it means, okay, get rid of Dabo. I mean, it means Dabo's got to wake up and stop pretending that it's 2015. It's not.
Yeah.
And if he continues to pretend that, either he gets a big buyout and Clemson moves on, or Clemson lives through a lot of these type of seasons. Maybe not this bad, but never again as good as they were 8 or 10 years ago. But if he adapts, like, he's a terrific football coach.
Yes.
And all he has to do is figure out his place in this game. And lots of terrific long-term basketball coaches have figured it out and found their way. Lots of terrific coaches who maybe haven't been in football quite as long, like a Ryan Day. It took them 5 minutes. Okay, we got to do that. We're doing that. I mean, it didn't take any time at all. And they continued what they were able to achieve and accelerated. So Dabo can do what he's doing now, and like I said, either lose a bunch of games or get a big buyout, or he can say, okay, I get it now. I've tried. My way's not going to work. I can still hang on to my core principles, but I can't pretend that the transfer portal's not a revolving door. I got to get in there and make sure that I get the guys that I can get and that can make us better.
I do have to ask you one soccer question before I get you out of here.
Okay.
The United States men's national team, World Cup is next year. What do they need to clean up as a program so that they're in the best position possible to at least make some noise in the thing?
I think the first thing that needs to happen is that after a lot of experimentation, it's time for Mauricio Pochettino to say, okay, here's what you have to be to play for me. Not all this like surreptitious, well, we're not calling you in. And I think he sent all the messages that need to be sent except the direct one. Here's what you need to do. Weston McKennie, for instance, a midfielder who has been in and out of his favor. Here's what you need to do to play for me. And the same with every other player who's been somewhat questionable about whether they fit into not his system, but his program. That's the first thing. And Gio Reyna would be another, and there's several more. That would be the first thing. And then the second thing is, how does he want to play? That's the thing that is most puzzling to me at this point, is that we are now more than a year, just short of a year into his tenure. Right. Yeah. And we don't really know how he wants to play these guys, how he wants to align himself. Does he want to be flexible? Does he want to be rigid with the system, but maybe a little bit flexible within the system? I don't think those guys have any idea right now what he thinks is the best way to play them. In the international break in early September, I went to the game in Columbus against Japan. Yeah. They played with three center backs, which is very rare in U.S. soccer. We've very rarely played that, but it does have a logic to it based on who our center backs are now, particularly Tim Ream, who's 38 years old. Will be the oldest U.S. World Cup, as long as he stays healthy between now and he will be the oldest U.S. World Cup ever player by, I think, 2 full years. It might be helpful to have an extra center back out there. But if that's the way he's going to play, he's got to get to work doing it. And if he wants to stick with something like a 4-3, 4-3 or a 4-3-2-1 or whatever, then he's got to say, okay, we're going to do this. Those guys don't know now. And if that doesn't happen soon, I think they're going to run out of time.
Yeah, because what Japan is what, 17 in the world right now, somewhere around there?
17th in the world when they came in, yes.
Yeah. This is my issue. If you're around something for a year, at this point, you should know what your players can handle and which ones, maybe one or two, there may be some concepts a couple of guys can't handle, which means you can't use them. At this point, you should know that. That's how I look at it.
You're absolutely right, Steve. And I think that he was trying to just get a look at a lot of different guys over the course of the last several months. And what's bothersome to me is that he allowed Christian Pulisic to take a lot of criticism and heat from analysts generally, and particularly from some of the high-profile former players who become analysts. Pochettino allowed him to take a lot of heat at a time when he was interested in looking at a lot of different players anyway. Pochettino, you put him on the field in the World Cup, he won't care. He really does care about this team.
Yes, he does.
I don't know him great, but I've dealt with him a lot, and he's always been very forthcoming about how much it means to him. And, hey, if you remember the goal he scored in 2022 that got the U.S. into the round of 16, you know, Steve, he put everything that matters to a guy on the line to score that goal.
Yep. Absolutely. You can tell there's a passion to it, and you're not going to be great unless you have a passion for it. Pulisic is passionate about what the U.S. can do, so I never doubt that for a second. Mike, always a pleasure. Glad we could go around 3 different sports here in about 15, 20 minutes.
It was a lot of fun, Steve, and it's always a treat to talk to you.
Same here, my friend. Thanks. The great Mike DeCourcy. I mean, he is one of the absolute best in the business. BTN, Fox Sports, Sporting News. We'll wrap it up in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Gear up for the fall season in a Subaru from W&L.
Take on the Friday night lights in a fuel-efficient 2025 Subaru Crosstrek with as low as 0% financing for 72 months.
Or get to your favorite camping destination in a reliable all-wheel drive Subaru Outback from W&L. Enjoy your time away as you cozy up with a family around a crackling campfire and enjoy financing as low as 0% for 72 months.
Need more adrenaline?